The great pyramid of Pharaoh Seti was no longer rising toward the heavens. It was sinking. The southern corner had dropped half a cubit into uncompacted silt. Limestone blocks cracked like thunder. Inside the throne room, the court erupted into desperate speculation. Priests burned incense, searching for omens.
The gods are angered. We must double the sacrifices, burn sacred oils. Only then will the earth hold.
And if the sacrifices fail, my monument crumbles while you chant Rahotep.
Then, from the shadows beside a pillar, a young boy stepped forward, the seventh son, the spare no one noticed.
The foundation was laid on floodplain silt. The differential settlement coefficient is catastrophic. The pyramid isn't cursed. It's settling because the soil beneath is soft as river mud. I can fix it.
Blasphemy. A child dares question the will of the gods with his foreign words.
With oiled cedar levers and grated gravel drains, I can level the foundation. Give me command, and I will save it.
But the voice that challenged the priests belonged to a soul that had already died once. In a world thousands of years distant, a 52-year-old engineer slumped over his console. A rocket disintegrated on the screen. His heart seized, and everything went black. He woke to linen, gold, and a woman's hands lifting him toward the sun.
This isn't a hospital. Where am I? These hands, this light, it's wrong.
He had been reborn as the seventh son of Pharaoh Seti, a spare in a Bronze Age court. For a decade, he watched, listened, and hid his knowledge behind a child's eyes.
The pyramid's foundation will fail. I calculated it years ago. But when do I dare speak?
So he waited, gathering evidence, until the stones spoke louder than the priests. And on the day the southern corner sank, he finally broke his silence. But that moment had been years in the making. As a child, he watched the pyramid's foundation with a mind that understood its fatal flaw.
The silt is loose. The whole southern edge will sink. I need to calculate the exact differential.
He drew hydraulic diagrams in the dust, forgotten engineering from another life.
Young prince, what are these marks? They look like levers and channels.
A game, Foreman Beck. But see, if the corner sank, you'd lift it with cedar fulcrums here, and drain seepage with gravel here.
A game? This is more real than the priest's mumblings. Why haven't you told the Pharaoh?
Because they'd call it heresy. I have to wait until the failure proves me right.
For years, he refined his theory, hiding scrolls under his bed, rehearsing every word. And when the stones finally cracked, he was ready, but still, his heart raced as he stepped forward. The court held its breath. Then, from the back, Foreman Beck pushed through the crowd, clutching a worn papyrus.
Great Pharaoh, I saw the boy draw this years ago. His diagrams showed the very cracks that have appeared today.
Preposterous. A child's scribbles cannot foretell the will of the gods.
It is not prophecy, High Priest. It is load distribution and soil mechanics. The foundation sinks because the silt compresses.
And you believe this can be reversed? With levers and gravel?
Give me workers and cedar from the royal stores. I will level the pyramid within a season.
You would waste the kingdom's resources on a child's delusion. He will doom us all.
Enough. The pyramid is my legacy. If there is a chance, no matter how small, we must take it. Kahotep, seventh son, you are now overseer of the great construction. Do not fail me.
This is it. If I succeed, the empire changes. If I fail, I die.
At dawn, Kahotep stood at the pyramid's base. Workers and cedar logs marshaled before him.
Foreman Beck, position the oiled fulcrums at the third course of the south corner. We lift simultaneously.
You heard the prince. Heave.
The limestone groaned, but slowly it rose. Mud and water squelched beneath.
Now, the gravel, lay it in the trench from coarse to fine. It will carry the load and drain the seepage into the canal.
As the weeks passed, the southern corner leveled, the cracks sealed under the new drainage. On the final day, a crowd gathered. The pyramid stood true.
It is done. The foundation holds.
From the palace balcony, the priests watched in silence. Rahotep's grip on his staff whitened.
They will call it magic, but I see the fear in their eyes. This is only the beginning of what I will bring.
Pharaoh Seti summoned the full court and placed the gold of honor around Kahotep's neck. The hall erupted in acclaim.
You have done what priests and sorcerers could not. From this day you stand above your brothers, my favored son.
Behind the cheering, his 6 elder brothers exchanged bitter glances, their birthright suddenly in shadow.
They see me as a threat now. The court is a nest of vipers, and I have stepped on their tails.
But amid the intrigue, Kahotep began to train a loyal corps of foremen. He taught them the mechanics of levers and the flow of water.
A lever needs a fulcrum at the right distance to multiply force. Remember, work in equals work out. Understand this, and you can move the world.
But in the temple corridors, the priests whispered that the boy's words were dark magic, a blasphemy that had bent the stone itself.
He speaks of foreign laws, not divine will. He is not blessed. He is a usurper who will bring the gods' wrath.
Be careful, my son. The priests are spreading poison, and your brothers sharpen their knives in the dark.
Let them plot. I will arm this kingdom with knowledge they cannot comprehend. Then we will see who is the usurper.
At 16, Kahotep unrolled a new scroll before the throne, a bridge of wooden pylons anchored in the Nile's bed without a single pillar in the water.
Father, this will bind the 2 banks of the Nile for trade and armies. The stone pylons on each bank will carry the load outward.
Impossible. The river is sacred to Hapi. Building over it will anger the god and bring floods.
The pylons sit on solid bedrock, not the riverbed. The water flows freely underneath. There is no offense, only strength.
I have seen your stone magic before. Build this bridge, and you will have all the resources you need.
Construction began, but the priests stirred the laborers with fear. Work halted for days over ritual purifications.
Young prince, they say the river will swallow us if we continue. Half the men refuse to lift a beam.
Then we use our trained men and pay them double. Let the priests chant. Their voices cannot hold back physics.
Within months, the bridge spanned the Nile. Oxen hauled stone across it, and the capital's trade doubled. The people cheered.
Mark my words. The god's wrath will come. He builds with devilry, not devotion.
For weeks, Kahotep drilled his core engineers. He taught them to inspect timber for hidden cuts and to test stone for fractures.
A structure is only as strong as its weakest joint. Check every beam before it is set. We cannot afford failure.
Prince Kahotep, a secondary support beam on the bridge. It's cracking. If it goes, the whole span could fail.
An ox cart laden with granite had just crossed. The beam splintered, and the deck sagged dangerously. Workers scrambled to brace it.
This is no accident. The cut is clean. Someone meant for this to collapse. The priests. Father, this beam was deliberately weakened. The high priest seeks to disgrace me by destroying my works.
Rahotep would not dare. This is a grave accusation, my son.
The prince's engineering is at fault, not my priest's. Perhaps his calculations were flawed.
He has the Pharaoh's ear. I cannot rely on the throne for justice. I must build my own influence.
That night, Kahotep unrolled a fresh scroll. Not a bridge or a pyramid, but a blueprint for an empire built on the unbreakable laws of physics. In the following months, Kahotep forged an array of polished copper mirrors, each curved precisely to focus the sun's light into a searing beam.
You claim light alone will burn wooden ships. This is sorcery beyond even the priests.
Not sorcery, Father. The parabola focuses parallel rays to a single point. The temperature at that focus can ignite wood from 100 cubits.
The array was mounted on the eastern bank, where enemy raiders from the sea would be forced to pass.
If this works, we'll have a weapon no army can match, and the priests' hold-on fear will melt away.
Then, at dawn, lookout horns blared. A fleet of enemy longships appeared on the horizon. oars churning the water.
Align the mirrors. Center the beam on the lead ship.
The array rotated as one. A blinding point of light struck the first ship's hull, and within heartbeats, flames erupted. Sailors leaped into the water as ship after ship burst into flame. The raid shattered, the enemy fled, and the capital erupted in celebration.
The people call me blessed by Ra. But the priests, they will never forgive this. They'll try something desperate.
The capital swelled with prosperity, and Pharaoh Seti, frail but proud, raised Kahotep to the rank of vizier, first among his sons, equal to the priests.
Father, I propose a network of nilometers, stone staircases carved into the river. They will measure the flood's height and predict the harvest.
The flood is the breath of Happy, not a number to be carved in stone. This is sacrilege.
If it can prevent famine, it is no sacrilege. Build these nilometers, my son.
Within months, stone staircases marked the river from the delta to the fourth cataract. Kahotep's scribes recorded daily water levels, building a pattern. But the second year, the measurements fell. The flood was low, and the black soil cracked under a cruel sun. The fields bloomed pale and thin.
The nilometers have offended the god. The prince's false science has turned Happy against us. Only sacrifice will restore the flood.
The data shows a clear cycle. Next year will be worse. We must stockpile grain now, not waste it on bonfires.
Enough. I will not let my kingdom starve over arguments. Kahotep, do what you must, but the priests will also make their offerings.
As the sun baked the land, the kingdom held its breath, and the high priest's eyes turned to darker plans. The next flood came, but it was even weaker. The Nile barely licked the fields, and the earth turned to dust.
Father, the storehouses must be filled now. I will commandeer surplus grain from every nome. We have maybe 2 harvests before starvation.
You would steal the people's bread. Your calculations would empty their granaries and leave them to riot.
And if you are wrong, Kahotep, if the flood returns, you will have broken the kingdom's trust.
If I am wrong, I will face whatever judgment you decree. But if I am right and we do nothing, Egypt dies.
With the pharaoh's reluctant nod, Kahotep's agents swept through the land, filling the royal silos to bursting while the common folk watched their own reserves dwindle.
Behold, the prince hoards your grain while you starve. This is the fruit of his godless wisdom. The nilometers have poisoned the river.
They won't understand until the famine hits. By then, it might be too late for me.
Rahotep's words are loud in the streets. I cannot ignore my people's fear. Perhaps you should. Step back from the granaries.
And so, at the height of the drought, the vizier who had saved the pyramid stood alone, his plans in place, but his authority crumbling like the parched soil. As Egypt's granaries overflowed, emissaries from starving kingdoms arrived, their faces hollow, offering gold and slaves for a few sacks of grain.
Father, give them grain, but demand oaths of fealty and land. We can extend our reach without a single arrow.
So now the prince would bleed the starving for empire. He would trade your suffering for foreign oaths while the gods rage.
Rahotep speaks for the people, Kahotep. Your methods, they divide my kingdom. I cannot permit this grain to leave Egypt.
You would refuse tribute and leave us alone when the war comes. This is not wisdom, it is surrender to fear.
I am still Pharaoh. Your science has brought only division. From this moment, you are no longer vizier. Confine yourself to the palace.
Guards escort the former vizier to his chambers. He is to have no visitors, and no word of his engineering is to leave his lips.
Queen Merisank rushed to intervene, but Rahotep's acolytes blocked her, their faces cold. The palace belonged to the priests now.
They think they've silenced me, but the grain is still there. And when the famine breaks them, they will crawl back.
But outside the palace walls, the drought deepened, and the first of the starving kingdoms drew its sword. At dawn, a starving army struck a royal granary. But Kahotep's mirror array, still guarded by loyal foremen, turned the invaders' siege ladders into ash.
Aim for the ram. Drive them back.
This is the prince's war. His hoarded grain drew these dogs to our gates, and now his mirrors scorch the earth.
When Pharaoh Seti heard the news, his face turned gray. He collapsed at the foot of his throne, a thin trail of blood at the corner of his mouth.
The gods strike the Pharaoh for allowing this sorcerer to live. Seal the palace and arrest all who still speak of the prince's lies.
Guards stormed Kahotep's chamber. They bound his hands and threw him into a lightless cell beneath the palace.
They'll execute me before father wakes. But if I can just see him, I might still save him.
By sunset, High Priest Rahotep had crowned himself regent. The council of nobles bowed their heads in silence. In the cell's darkness, all Kahotep could hear was the distant chant of priests and the labored, failing breaths of a kingdom without its true pharaoh.
I gave them an empire of stone and light, and they buried me in darkness. But I am not finished yet.
In the pitch black, Kahotep scratched a grand design into the stone floor, a pyramid with angular bastions and mirror arrays, a fortress to shield the kingdom.
They think they've buried the future, but this blueprint will outlast every priest. When the next army comes, they'll beg for my walls.
A torch flared at the cell door. Queen Merisank slipped inside, her veil drawn, her eyes swollen with tears.
They've set your execution for dawn, my son. Rahotep spreads lies that you poisoned your father with your machines.
Then I must see him before the end. I can save him, Mother. Squeeze his chest, force the fluid from his lungs. But I need to be there.
They have already taken him to the temple for the death rites. Rahotep will never allow you near.
Tell the regent I will confess all my crimes before the gods, but only at my father's side. He won't refuse the chance to humiliate me.
The queen understood. It was a final, brutal gamble. She vanished into the corridor, leaving the cell in deeper silence. By midnight, shackled and bruised, the prince was dragged through the temple gates. Priests lined the path, hissing curses.
One chance. He'll mock me, then I'll act. Don't think, just remember. 30 compressions, 2 breaths.
Inside the inner sanctum, Pharaoh Seti lay on a stone bed, his breath a wet rattle. The high priest stood over him like a vulture.
Behold the son who poisoned his father. Let his execution cleanse this holy place of his sorcery.
I have not come to beg. I have come to confess, but only to my father's face. Grant me this, and then kill me.
Confess. You would whisper more lies into his dying ear. I will not allow it.
As his mother, I demand the right of mercy. Let him speak to Seti. What harm can one more word do?
A weak movement from the bed. The pharaoh's hand lifted, the fingers trembling, pointing at his son. The priests fell silent.
Unbind him. But if he tries any sorcery, strike him down.
Guards cut the ropes at his wrists. Kahotep stepped toward his father, every eye in the temple trained on his back.
The fluid is in his lungs. I need to thin it. Then compress. Please, old heart, still be beating.
He knelt beside the pharaoh and placed his trembling hands on the bare chest. Kahotep pressed down, his whole weight behind each compression. 1, 2, 3, a rhythm only he understood.
Pump the heart. Force the fluid out. Come on, old man. You didn't build an empire to die in a temple.
He attacks the sacred body. Seize him. This is murder, not medicine.
Ignoring the outcry, Kahotep tilted the pharaoh's head back, pinched his nose, and breathed twice into the motionless mouth.
The air must reach his lungs. Breathe, father. Breathe.
A violent convulsion shook the pharaoh's frame. A wet, hacking cough erupted, and dark fluid splattered the stone bed.
Seti, he lives.
Blasphemy. He has defiled the sacred rites. This sorcery must be purged.
The court dissolved into chaos. Guards unsure, priests shrieking, the queen weeping. And through it all, Pharaoh Seti's chest rose and fell. Then the pharaoh's eyes flickered open. His lips moved, a thin, rasping sound escaping.
My son, Kahotep, my true heir. You pulled me back from the darkness. Rahotep, the priests, they lied. This is not sorcery. Arrest him.
Seti, save your breath. The guards, do as the Pharaoh commands.
He is delirious. This sorcerer has bewitched him.
Father, rest now. Save your strength.
Number, hear me. Kahotep rules as co-regent. Until I am well, this is my decree.
The royal guard seized the high priest, his golden circlet tumbling to the stone floor.
You will regret this, fallen prince. The Nile will run red. The gods will abandon Egypt.
Take him to the cells. He will face trial for his crimes against the crown.
And as the pharaoh slipped back into unconsciousness, Kahotep rose, his hands still stained, his authority now absolute. But the final test of his empire still lay ahead. Kahotep summoned his engineers to the royal map room. A new age of fortification was about to be carved into stone.
We will build a chain of fortified pyramids from the delta to the fourth cataract. Mirrors and thick bastions will make each a fortress.
Such a project would take decades, co-regent. We lack the time before the next drought or war.
Then we compress decades into months. Use every hand, every grain sack, every copper mirror. Physics will be our multiplier.
Across Egypt, thousands mobilized, quarries roared, and the first foundations rose along the Nile, angled to deflect both water and invaders. Inside the pyramid cores, Kahotep carved his calculations. Load-bearing angles, hydraulic channels, and diagrams of concentrated light. But before the mortar dried, a dust cloud rose on the eastern horizon. A vast army, hardened by famine, was marching toward the delta.
Then we finish the first fortress in one. Beck, double the shifts. We anchor the pyramid on the floodplain by the next full moon.
It will take a miracle, my lord.
But as the first massive blocks were set, it was clear that Kahotep's empire would be built on more than miracles. It would be built on structural mechanics and the unbreakable will of a man who had already cheated death twice. The enemy host halted before the Delta Pyramid. Elephants, chariots, and thousands of spears, but no cracks appeared in the new stone.
Angle all mirrors to the western array. We'll strike their siege towers first. Nothing wooden touches my walls.
A dozen beams of concentrated light lanced out, igniting the wooden towers like dry papyrus. Screams and smoke filled the plain.
Their elephants turn. The beasts are trampling their own lines.
Fire against flesh. Physics against desperation. This is the empire I designed.
The foreign army broke. Chariots overturned. Banners fell, and the survivors fled into the eastern desert, leaving their dead to the vultures.
This is only the first fortress. When the chain is complete, no enemy will set foot on the Black Land again.
Riders carried the news to every nome. Egypt was no longer a kingdom of monuments. It was a fortress built on the unbreakable laws of the universe.
Father, I have built the shield you needed. Now rest. I will carry the crown when you are ready to let it go.
And in the fading light, the great pyramids that had once been tombs now stood as bastions of a new empire, an empire designed to outlast the sun. In the quiet of the night, Pharaoh Seti's spirit slipped away. He died with a smile, his hand in Kahotep's.
You built the foundation, Father. Now I will raise the pillars that reach the stars.
He is with the gods now, my son. Egypt is yours.
The funeral procession wound through the capital, the golden sarcophagus gleaming. All of Egypt mourned the passing of an era. At the temple, the high priest of Amun, a new, humbler man, placed the double crown upon Kahotep's brow.
The old priests burned incense for broken stone. I will burn physics into the very core of our civilization. Egypt will stand forever.
Within his great pyramid, Kahotep carved not spells, but the equations of load and leverage, a testament to the mind that built an empire.
From the delta to the fourth cataract, my calculations hold the waters and the enemies. I have built a kingdom designed to outlast the sun.
Kahotep ruled for decades, and his pyramid network became the spine of a kingdom that endured invasions and ages. And in the stone of his own tomb, workers carved not a god, but a man holding a lever and a mirror, the symbols of an engineer who became Pharaoh. In the twilight of his reign, Pharaoh Kahotep climbed the steps of his own pyramid, alone, to watch the sun set over the kingdom he had forged.
2 lives, 2 hearts. The engineer died so the pharaoh could live, and I used his mind to lift stone and light.
The landscape below was stitched with his works, bridges, mirrors, and pyramids that hummed with hidden calculations.
I was a man from a world that reached the stars. I gave this one a foundation that would never sink.
The wind carried the scent of the Nile, the same river he had tamed with levers and gravel.
I am no god. Though they carved my name among them, I am an engineer. That is enough.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, the Great Pyramid caught the last light, a beacon of stone and science. And in the years that followed, the pyramids endured, their equations still holding the weight of the sky.
I built a kingdom designed to outlast the sun. Let it stand as proof. Physics is the truest magic.
And so, the NASA engineer who became a pharaoh left his legacy in the only place it could never be erased, the unshakable laws of the universe. Centuries passed, and the pyramids stood, unchanging against the shifting sands. The Nile still flooded, but the Nilometer steps guided the farmers, as they had for generations. The equations carved in stone did not fade. They were the invisible bones of the empire, and so, the kingdom that Kahotep built on structural mechanics and thermodynamics outlasted its enemies and its gods. It was not magic that preserved it, but the unyielding laws of the universe: load, leverage, and light. To this day, the pyramids endure, a testament to the engineer who was reborn as a pharaoh. And in the silence of the desert, if you listen, you can almost hear the echo of his calculations. He gave them more than stone. He gave them a kingdom designed to outlast the sun. And as long as the stones stand and the equations hold, the engineer's legacy will never be forgotten. I, the NASA engineer, was reborn as a pharaoh's son and built a pyramid empire using physics.